Chapter 1. Birth in the Dark Nest. You awaken in complete darkness, your tiny body still slick with embryonic fluid. Around you, the damp clay walls of the nursery chamber glisten with condensation, and every breath you draw tastes of earth and pheromones. You cannot see, but your antennae quiver at the faintest vibration. A choir of millions of your sisters, stirring in perfect unison. A nurse ant approaches, her mandibles gently probing the edge of your egg husk. With a precise tap, she ruptures the shell, and you feel the first stirrings of freedom. A droplet of chewed fungus paste is offered to your open mandibles. Its rich, enzyme-loaded nutrients flood your gut, triggering the rapid cell division that will define your first molt. Within minutes, the old cuticle along your back splits in a jagged seam. You push free, leaving behind a papery husk. Emerging, you find your new exoskeleton is stronger, slightly armored, and studded with tiny sensory hairs, setae, that sharpen your connection to the world around you. Each hair registers the slightest airflow. Each joint flex sends a tremor through the tunnel network. You have become a minor worker. As you flex your legs for the first time, another nurse ant passes you a brood food droplet, royal jelly for developing larvae. Though you cannot yet digest it, this new secretion primes your glands to produce trail pheromones and brood pheromones later in life. Instinct urges you to consume, but you pass it to the next hatchling, learning the lessons of cooperation on day one. Your first assignment arrives. Follow a veteran worker into the adjacent corridor. You walk in her chemical footprints, imprinting her pheromone pattern into your memory. Together, you exit the nursery and enter the brood chamber, where the queen's massive abdomen rests atop a brood pile. The air here is thicker, saturated with her scent. You feel a shudder of awe as nurse ants tend to her eggs, feeding her nutrient secretions and removing waste. Another molt comes more slowly this time. Between feeding bouts, enzymes soften your old shell, and you arch briefly until it cracks. You emerge again, this time with longer legs and a broader head. Your mandibular muscles have developed enough to crush small particles of leaf. Pheromone glands behind your head have grown, ready to mark future trails. Daylight never penetrates these depths, but time passes nonetheless. You learn to distinguish the nursery's cyclical rhythms, the subtle shift in temperature when outside foragers return, the change in humidity when rainwater seeps into upper tunnels, the soft clicking of soldier mandibles as they patrol overhead. Each signal tells you the state of the colony, growth, threat, or decline. In your fourth hour of life, you accompany a nurse to the refuse chamber. Older workers debate the disposal of spent fungus and brood husks. You carry away a fragment of spent comb to the decaying pile, unconsciously contributing to soil enrichment above ground as bacteria break down the discarded material. Even in waste, your labour enriches the ecosystem. By the end of your first cycle, your body has transformed. The sheen of your new cuticle glints under the dim nest lighting, your legs find purchase on slick clay, and your antennae map the nursery's chemical architecture. You feel a faint pride in your newfound mobility and purpose. This is your genesis, hatched in darkness, fed on communal nutrients, shaped by molts, and inducted into the colony's unbroken chain of service. From this cradle of clay and pheromone, you will emerge as a vital cog in a superorganism whose tunnels span meters, whose chambers tower like subterranean cathedrals, and whose power lies in unity. Your journey has begun. Chapter 2. Molt and Morph, Becoming a Worker. Your second molt arrives within hours. Enzymes in your hemolymph soften the old cuticle along predetermined seams. You arch your back, and with a brief effort, the old shell splits in jagged lines. You push free, leaving behind a ghostly husk that crinkles as it clatters to the chamber floor. Emerging from your discarded skin, you feel immediate differences. Your new exoskeleton is thicker, offering more protection against soil abrasion. Tiny sensory hairs, setae, sprout along your legs and antennae, amplifying every tremor in the surrounding clay. Your mandibles, once simple hooks, have gained small serrations, ready for gripping and cutting. Biology dictates your next role, a minor worker. As you flex your broader head pressing against the ceiling's low arch, you notice glands behind your head swelling. These mandibular glands will soon secrete trail pheromones strong enough to guide thousands of sisters. A nurse ant brushes you aside, demonstrating how to distribute pheromone droplets by tapping her gaster along the wall. You practice in turn, etching invisible highways through the nest. Your digestive system, initially designed for brood food, shifts to process a wider diet. Midgut cells multiply, preparing to extract nutrients from leaf pulp, insect prey, and fungal nodules. The fat bodies lining your abdomen swell, energy reserves essential for long shifts outside the nest. Evolution has tuned each molt to add specialized functionality. Today's changes mark the start of your labor career. Under the glow of bioluminescent fungi, you follow a trainer to the debris chamber. There, you observe soldier ants dismantling the remains of decayed broods and expelled pathogens. Acidic secretions from their metapleural glands dissolve bacteria. You assist by carrying away small fragments of waste on your back, depositing them in the refuse pile. Even in menial tasks, you learn the colony's self-cleaning logic. Next, the trainer leads you to the fungus gardens. Farmers demonstrate proper leaf preparation, cutting fragments, carrying them to the inoculation zone, chewed to a pulp, and pressed onto comb walls. You mimic each motion until the pattern is etched into your neural circuits. Your mandibles clamp and slice deftly. Your forelegs brace to carry loads twice your size. Between tasks, you rest in the nurse's chamber, receiving tiny droplets of brood food, a protein-packed secretion that fuels your next molt. As you drink, hormonal signals flood your system, triggering another cuticle softening phase. In moments, you'll undergo your third molt, shifting your caste potential toward a specialized role: soldier, scout, or major worker. Throughout these transformations, pheromones maintain social harmony. You sense the queen's constant presence in the air, a subtle blend of cuticular hydrocarbons that suppresses ovarian development in workers. You will never reproduce. Your destiny is service. In return, the colony's chemical currency directs you exactly where you're needed. A sudden tremor shakes the tunnel. Farther down, a soldier patrol encounters a tiny breach where soil has collapsed. Your trainer signals urgency. You cut short rest and join a repair crew. Using mandibular spines and soil grains, you wedge clay into the crack, tamping it down. Fellow workers release bonding secretions that act like cement. Within minutes, the breach is sealed, and the patrol passes without further threat. Returning to the fungus gardens, you find that your third molt awaits. The old cuticle splits reluctantly. You push free to reveal new adaptations: spade-like legs optimized for digging, a broader abdomen housing larger crop chambers, and stronger leg muscles for hauling heavy loads. You are now a major worker, capable of both foraging and nest maintenance. In the quiet aftermath, you flex your expanded legs and feel the weight of responsibility. Your body's evolution mirrors the colony's needs: rapid growth, specialized tools, and chemical communication. Every molt brought you closer to efficiency. Each morphological shift unlocks new tasks. As your new exoskeleton hardens, you reflect on the marvel of self-organization. No single ant plans the molts or assigns roles. Chemical signals and genetic programming guide each transformation. From larva to major worker, your path is predetermined yet essential. Each stage unlocking a layer of the colony's collective intelligence. By the end of this cycle, you stand ready for more complex duties: scouting, soldiering, or specialized farming. Your journey through molt and morph has forged you into a multi-purpose instrument of the super colony, a testament to evolution's power and the beauty of collective life. Your transformation continues. Each cuticle shed brings new capabilities and new ways to serve the unbroken empire beneath the earth. Chapter 3: The Queen's Nursery and Larval Care. You follow the pheromone-scented corridor deeper into the brood chambers. Here, the air is warmer and heavier, saturated with the Queen's unique hydrocarbon signature. Massive eggs lie in wax-lined cells, each one the size of a foot-puff grain of rice. Nurse workers move among them with precision, their mandibles gently adjusting egg positions to optimize temperature and humidity. The queen herself rests at the chamber's centre, her immense gaster gently pulsating as she lays new eggs. Thousands of her offspring cluster around her, each larva a future member of the super colony. You pause to observe. Her body dwarfs yours by orders of magnitude, and her metabolic output drives the colony's entire reproductive engine. A nurse ant offers you a droplet of brood food, an amber secretion produced in her crop gland. It is richer than the fungus paste, a blend of sugars, amino acids, and antimicrobial peptides. When you ingest it, your own glands begin to modulate. The mandibular and postpharyngeal glands adjust to produce brood pheromones, chemical signals that differentiate larvae from workers and regulate development across castes. Nearby, older larvae writhe in silk-lined chambers. They secrete a protective cocoon, each thread spun from labial glands to guard against pathogens and predation. You watch as a nurse gently brushes contaminant spores from a cocoon surface before sealing it with a drop of enzyme fluid, an antiseptic barrier. This level of care minimises mortality to below 10%, astonishingly low for insect societies. The developmental schedule unfolds like clockwork. Within days, each larva will grow 15-fold, fueled by the rich brood food. Fat bodies swell in their abdomens, and imaginal discs form beneath the cuticle, precursors to wings in reproductive castes or soldier morphology in specialised workers. You realise that every larval cohort actually represents future specialists, kings, queens, soldiers, or workers, as dictated by pheromone concentration gradients and nutritional input. You accompany a nurse to a side chamber where queen larvae are reared in royal cells. These cells are larger, with extra walls of wax to insulate and isolate. The queen's offspring receive 2 to 3 times the normal brood food allocation. You help transfer a developing queen larva from a standard cell into a royal cell, gently scooping her brood sac with your mandibles. As you deposit her into the larger chamber, you sense her pheromone profile shift, a chemical signature of future fertility. Across the hall, worker larvae reside in more communal combs, tended by dozens of nurses taking shifts. You see interactions. Nurses exchange brood fluid with older workers, sharing hormones that keep development on schedule. In this buzzing microcosm, each droplet of fluid carries information: age cues, caste directives, nutritional status. The brood chamber is a living endocrine factory. Every so often, a soldier ant struts through the brood hall, her massive mandibles glinting. She pauses, allowing nurses to deposit brood food directly into her crop, reserved for emergencies. In times of famine or attack, soldier ants can redistribute this reserve to maintain brood viability. You recognise the subtle interplay. Defence and care are intertwined. Without soldiers, nurse ants would be unable to protect the brood. Without brood, soldiers would have no purpose. Pheromone tunnels radiate from the queen's chamber like spokes on a wheel. You follow one trail to a specialised brood sanitation alcove. Here, nurses manage hygienic behaviour, removing diseased or dead broods and sequestering them in antiseptic refuse pits. This sanitation reduces pathogen spread, ensuring the colony's health. You join in, carrying a contaminated husk to the disposal pool. The fluid here contains formic acid and antimicrobial peptides that dissolve biological waste. Your shift in the brood chambers ends with another brood food droplet, a reward and a biochemical primer for your next role. You step back through the pheromone tunnel, tracking your own trail to avoid disorientation. As you leave, you catch one last glimpse of the queen's pulsating gaster and the rhythmic motion of her attendants. Life here is a cycle of birth, nourishment, and careful regulation, an intricate dance of chemistry and behaviour. In the brood chambers, the super colony's future takes shape. Each larva's fate, worker, soldier, or queen, is sealed by the fluids they consume, the pheromones they imprint, and the care they receive. You carry these lessons with you as you venture back into the wider empire, knowing that every action you take reverberates through generations yet to hatch. Your understanding of life's most intimate processes strengthens your resolve to serve, to protect, and to nurture the next wave of your colony's endless legacy. Chapter 4. Farming the Fungus Gardens. You enter the fungus garden, a colossal comb of white, spongy growth stretching farther than you can see. Rows upon rows of concentric rings form a living scaffold, each chamber meticulously cleaned and curated by specialist farmer ants. The air carries a faint, earthy aroma tinged with sweetness, an olfactory signature of healthy mycelium thriving on leaf pulp. Your task today is to prepare new substrate for fungal inoculation. A forager scuttles in, carrying a half-chewed fragment of oak leaf. You take the fragment and move to an adjacent chamber, clamping it between your mandibles. Tiny muscles flex as you grind the leaf into a pulp, releasing juices that mix with the enzymes in your saliva. This process pre-digests the cellulose, making it accessible to the fungus's enzymes. Once the pulp is the consistency of wet dough, you smear it onto fresh comb walls, pressing evenly to create a uniform layer no more than a millimetre thick. Fellow farmers use microscopic brushes, modified setae on their legs, to smooth the surface, ensuring optimal contact between leaf pulp and fungal spores. Within hours, you will see the first hyphoid tendrils emerge, and in days, fat nodules filled with carbohydrate-rich biomass will form. Fungal cultivation is not without risk. Parasites like Escovopsis spores can infect the garden, turning healthy combs black. You monitor the fungal sheets closely. Any discoloration triggers an immediate response. With precision, you excise the infected section using your serrated mandibles, carrying the disease material to a quarantine zone. Soldiers guard these materials until they can be safely egested outside the nest. Over weeks, each comb goes through cycles of growth and harvest. At peak yield, you harvest the nodules by rubbing comb walls lightly, causing the ripe spheres to detach. You collect these in your crop and deliver them to young workers, who use brood feeding glands to convert fungal sugars into brood food. This transfer fuels the next generation of larvae, linking fungal agriculture to colony reproduction. You pause to observe the garden's architecture. The combs are arranged in concentric levels, with older chambers farther from the queen's nursery. Temperature and humidity gradients are carefully regulated. Ventilation ants create airflow by gently fanning their wings, while moisture-absorbing fungi on the outer walls buffer against dryness. This microclimate engineering ensures year-round cultivation, regardless of external weather. Nearby, a group of major workers fortifies the comb supports, weaving strands of fungal hyphae to strengthen structural integrity. The fungus itself secretes chitin-degrading enzymes, softening walls for easier expansion. You realize that the bond between ant and fungus is mutualistic. You provide the taco of leaf pulp, and the fungus feeds you and your sisters. This partnership has endured for over 50 million years. When new scout trails reveal rich plant sources, you adjust garden schedules. More leaf pulp arrives, and you ramp up inoculation rates. Conversely, during dry seasons when forager returns dwindle, the gardens slow their growth, and farmers focus on maintenance rather than harvest. You track these calendar cycles using brood humidity and fungus colour as biological indicators of garden health. Your day in the fungus gardens ends with a deep clean ritual. You and fellow farmers walk the comb edges, removing debris, fallen soil particles, and stray brood setae. The comb floors shine under bioluminescent fungal patches, small clusters genetically selected to emit soft light, enabling nocturnal work. As you finish, you leave behind a pristine field of white mesh, ready for the next harvest. Farming the fungus gardens is more than food production. It's a pillar of survival. Each leaf fragment, each smear of pulp, and each excised fungus patch moves the colony forward. In the delicate interplay between ant and fungus, you witness the power of cooperation and coevolution, separate species uniting into a single, thriving superorganism. Your work here ensures the colony's endurance through seasons, threats, and generations yet to hatch. Tomorrow, you will join scouts mapping new food sources, but for now, you rest beneath the soft glow of cultivated bioluminescence, dreaming of ripening nodules and the harvest to come. Your labour in the gardens has sown the seeds of countless future lives, anchoring the empire beneath your feet. Chapter 5. Scouts and Surface Mapping. You join a group of scout ants at the edge of the brood chambers, following a veteran whose gait is measured and precise. His antennae sweep constantly, tasting air currents and sensing faint chemical cues embedded in the clay walls. He pauses at a junction, presses his gaster against the surface, and deposits a single droplet of trail pheromone. You imprint this chemical signature into your own neural pathways, a map encoded in scent. Moments later, the scout leads you up the entrance shaft. The tunnel widens and slopes upward, each metre bringing you closer to the surface and briefer glimmers of outside light. At the mouth, soil gives way to leaf litter and exposed roots. The veteran stops and raises his forelegs, marking a landmark. A moss-covered rock at the base of a slender sapling. You carefully press pheromone dots along its edge, linking this point to the colony's internal map. As you proceed, the external world unfolds in multisensory detail. A breeze carries the fragrance of flowering plants and distant rain. You taste sugar crystals on the bark, honeydew excreted by aphids farmed by other ants. A flash of movement overhead warns of predatory beetles, and a web spinner's fine threads cross the trail, invisible until you brush against them. Each hazard and resource is catalogued chemically for your sisters to follow. When you discover a sap leak oozing sweet nectar, you signal its presence by curling your gaster and releasing an amplified pheromone blend. Forager lines will swell behind you, transforming this isolated find into a river of food. You measure the leak's flow rate by timing drips, estimating how many ants the resource can sustain before it runs dry. This quantitative assessment ensures the colony allocates foragers efficiently. But not every trail is safe. You encounter the keystone predator of this microhabitat, a crab spider lying in ambush beneath a leaf. It pounces at the smallest movement. You retreat swiftly, leaving a deterrent pheromone to warn others. In this way, scouts are both pathfinders and sentinels, carving safe corridors through enemy territory. Back at the nest entrance, you reinforce the trail with barrier pheromones that guide foragers around unstable soil patches and dangerous crevices. You watch as worker lines fan out, carrying bits of leaf pulp and nectar toward the surface, confident in the safety of the path you've charted. Later, you climb back into the lower tunnels, the external odour fading as you descend. The scout's trail pheromone, distinctly sweeter than the queen's scent, lingers in your wake, a chemical fingerprint marking your journey. This living map will guide thousands of foragers, soldiers, and other scouts across the boundary between nest and world above. As you return to the brood chambers, you recognize the scout's dual role, explorer and protector. Without scouts like you, the colony would be blind to both bounty and danger. Your work forges connections between the subterranean empire and the vast world overhead, ensuring that life beneath the earth thrives on the resources and opportunities you unearth. Tomorrow, you will lead another mapping mission, perhaps deeper into the forest or across open ground, further expanding the colony's reach, one pheromone drop at a time. Your chemical highways are the lifeblood of the ant empire, routing sustenance, reinforcing safety, and sustaining one of nature's greatest superorganisms. Chapter 6. Foraging Frontiers, Risk and Reward. At dawn's first light, forager flags flutter along the entrance tunnel, a different pheromone blend, lighter and more urgent than scout trails. You join the stream, each ant carrying a fragment of leaf, a drop of nectar, or a morsel of prey. The foraging front stretches outward like a living river, flowing into the unknown. Your path is marked by scout-laid waypoints, clustered drops of deeper scent at critical turns. Between these markers, you follow in single file, antennae sweeping air currents for fresh resource signals. A fallen fruit half buried in soil emits a sweet aroma, your destination. You adjust your gait, increasing pace until you reach the prize. Clamping the fruit fragment between your mandibles, you begin the slow haul back home. Leaf pulp recruits dozens of carry loads, each worker joining the relay. But danger never sleeps. Razor-clawed beetles drill through fruit. Antlion larvae hide beneath sand traps. parasitic phorid flies zero in on exposed gasters, injecting eggs that will hijack your body. At the first sign of threat, a sudden drop in tread vibration, you release a cascade of alarm pheromone. Instantly, a protective cordon forms. Soldier ants stream forward, acid spraying, mandibles snapping. You slip into the safety of the mass, letting specialists handle defense while you secure your cargo. Once the front stabilizes, you resume your march. The journey back is equal parts haul and hazard. You memorize landmarks, twisted root arches, fungi-covered logs, shadows beneath ferns. Each feature helps distant foragers find the route even in pouring rain. After an hour's transit, you near the nest entrance. There, a sorted staging area awaits. Minor workers queue to receive your load. You pass your fragment to them, and without pause, reverse direction to return for more. This cycle repeats until evening's descent, when the foraging front retracts and the nest entrance seals against nocturnal predators. Inside, forager returns are tallied by worker accountants, ants that store crop contents in communal receptacles. Scientists estimate that a mature supercolony processes over 100 kilograms of biomass daily. Your contributions fuel brood development, fungus growth, and the queen's egg production. Yet foraging is not just a physical trial, it's an exercise in efficiency and strategy. When resources dwindle, scouts push further afield, and foraging zones expand. You adapt your route lengths, shifting from high-yield areas to riskier, nutrient-poor zones. Each decision balances caloric gain against mortality risk. Seasons shape foraging patterns. In the wet season, new plant growth and insect hatches replenish the front. In the dry months, you rely on stored honeydew and fungus reserves, reducing outside trips. Foragers like you remain alert for any sudden opportunity, a fallen insect carcass, a crack in a sugary exudate, to tip the balance in favour of colony growth. As dusk falls outside, you complete your final haul. Your mandibles ache, but your crop swells with the day's harvest. Inside the nest, you unload into communal stores and receive a reward droplet of brood food. The comforting sweetness washes away fatigue, priming you for another shift. In the quiet after foraging, you reflect on risk and reward. Each venture beyond the nest walls is a gamble, life and death balanced on pheromones and collective vigilance. Yet without foragers, the supercolony would starve. Your dedication and resilience at the frontier sustain an empire that thrives in the darkness beneath your feet. Tomorrow, you will once again step into that world of uncertainty, driven by instincts encoded in your genome and directions etched in scent. The foraging front is where colony and environment meet, and where your courage and skill prove indispensable. Chapter 7. Soldiers Stand, Defense and Wars. A tremor ripples through the tunnels, a sign that enemy scouts have breached the refuse chamber. You rush alongside the rank of soldier ants, their bodies twice the size of yours, armoured plates gleaming. Acid glands glisten beneath their abdomens, ready to deploy formic acid as a chemical weapon. The breach site unfolds before you. A cluster of decay beetles and opposing ants from a rival colony ravage the waste piles. Soldier mandibles clamp around intruders. Acid sprays hiss through the air. You carry lines of defense pheromone, tracing patterns on the walls that coordinate soldier movements, frontline positions, flanking routes, fallback lines. In the heat of combat, micro-decisions decide outcomes. A soldier's acid jet neutralizes a beetle's tough carapace. Another blocks a tunnel with a soil barricade. You assist by shoveling granular soil into gaps, reinforcing defenses even as the clash rages. The hiss of acid and the crack of exoskeleton echo in the chamber, like distant thunder. Within minutes, the enemy retreats. Victory is swift but costly. Fallen soldier ants litter the floor. You collect their chemical reserves, acid sacs and pheromone glands, to prevent scavenging enemies from exploiting leftover signals. The refuse chamber is purified once more under soldier supervision. But this was a small raid. You recall a larger conflict months ago when competing supercolonies clashed above ground in a spectacular tunnel war. Soldiers engineered false trails to lure opponents into trap corridors, dead ends lined with slippery fungal extract where enemy ants became immobilized. You help coordinate these tactics, watching chemical warfare become strategic art. Soldiers also protect scouts and foragers at critical junctures. You observe them forming ring defences around vulnerable columns, deploying acidic curtains that flush out predators. In the soldier caste, sacrifice is not heroic, but necessary. Their deaths fuel colony growth through nutrient recycling. After the skirmish, you assist in tunnel repairs. Soldiers redirect foot traffic, while you and other workers fill breaches with packed clay mixed with antimicrobial secretions. Alarms subside, replaced by the steady hum of colony life resuming. As you exit the refuse chamber, the weight of soldier sacrifices resonates through the tunnels. You pass small shrines, soil mounds laid around dead soldiers, where nurses deposit brood food in ritual commemoration. This symbolic mourning reinforces social bonds and reminds you that every worker, soldier and scout shares equal value in the super colony's survival. Your role in defence is complete for now, but vigilance never ends. Tomorrow, you will patrol the boundary tunnels, watching for signs of enemy scouts or environmental threats. In the unceasing war beneath the earth, the soldier's stand is the backbone of the ant empire, unyielding, strategic, and steeped in collective resolve. Chapter 8. Caste, Roles of Queen, Nurse, and Specialist. In the pulsating heart of the nest lies the Queen's chamber, a vaulted cathedral of silk-lined walls and humid air. Here, the Queen reclines on a cushion of brood, her massive gaster rhythmic with egg production. Each egg she lays is fertilized by sperm stored from last season's nuptial flight, guaranteeing genetic continuity. Nurse ants surround her in a constant, rotating watch. They groom her legs and antennae, removing fungal spores and debris. In return, they receive droplets of brood food directly from her crop, a nutrient-dense secretion that primes their glands for intense larval care. You watch as nurses exchange brood fluid among themselves, sharing hormones that synchronize the development of thousands of larvae. Beyond nurses, you encounter specialist castes with unique anatomies: soldiers, heavy-set bodies, oversized mandibles, and enhanced acid glands for defense. Scouts, sleeker frames, elongated antennae, and enhanced eye facets for occasional surface navigation. Miners and majors, intermediate workers tuned for either delicate brood care or heavy labour. Reproductives, winged males and virgin queens, each with enlarged flight muscles and ovaries ready for the nuptial voyage. Pheromone gradients throughout the chamber regulate caste differentiation. High concentrations of queen pheromones suppress worker ovarian development, ensuring all non-reproductives remain sterile. When winged females emerge, they navigate to special royal brood cells, larger, wax-reinforced, and isolated from worker larvae. Here, they receive exclusive access to enriched brood food that guides their development toward reproductive maturity. You witness a rare event: 2 virgin queens testing their wings against the chamber walls, their muscles swelling under the gloss of fat bodies. Mated last season, they will depart tonight on the nuptial flight, alighting in the open sky to mate and found new colonies. Their success hinges on timing. Emerging too early exposes them to predators. Too late, and weather shifts could drown the flight. Specialist workers emerge too. Fungal garden tenders with enlarged metapleural glands that secrete powerful antimicrobials, and waste managers with reinforced gaster plates to contain harmful debris. Each specialist embodies an evolutionary solution to a precise ecological or social challenge. As you leave the Queen's Court, you feel the weight of hierarchy and cooperation fused. In every caste, morphological adaptations match functional demands. The ant supercolony is not a democracy, but a coordinated machine, each caste a vital component in an organism greater than the sum of its parts. Your path may never cross the royal brood again, but understanding this caste mosaic reinforces your role. Whether you carry leaf pulp, map the surface, defend tunnels, or tend the fungus, you serve within a grand design shaped by chemistry, evolution, and relentless cooperation. Chapter 9. Ecology and Ecosystem Impact. You emerge briefly onto the forest floor, stepping from the hidden entrance into a world of light, life, and competition. Your supercolony's tunnels aerate the soil, improving water infiltration and root growth for nearby plants. As you traverse the leaf litter, you notice seedlings sprouting where waste chambers once deposited nutrient-rich humus. Nearby, aphids cluster on a stem, farmers of another species. You pass beneath their sugary exudations, knowing other ant species tend them for honeydew. In exchange, these aphids enjoy protection from predators. This mutualism parallels your own fungus farming partnership, illustrating how ants shape entire communities. Predatory insectivores circle, woodpeckers tapping bark, ant-eater mammals probing tunnels. Their presence keeps ant populations in check, preventing any single colony from overrunning the ecosystem. You sense each vibration, a potential threat that must be mapped and avoided by scouts. At the forest edge, you find a termite mound. Though superficially similar, termites cultivate a different fungus underground and live in a separate superorganism network. Occasionally, rival ants and termites skirmish over fallen logs. You recall videos of army ants overrunning termite colonies in massive raiding swarms, chemically coordinated assaults that leave termite survivors scrambling. You wade through a shallow stream, carrying leaf pulp back to the nest. The water cools your legs, and you see small fish and aquatic insects thriving in the enhanced habitat created by nutrient input from ant refuse. Your colony's presence subtly engineers mini ecosystems spreading life in your wake. As seasons shift, your impact morphs. During wet months, tunneled soil channels rainwater deep into the substrate, recharging groundwater reserves. In dry times, stable nest microclimates provide refugees for moisture-dependent organisms. You glance at the fungus garden entrance carved into a decaying log, an ecological hotspot where ants, fungi, bacteria, and small vertebrates intersect. Even the surrounding vegetation adapts. Some plants grow thicker bark or develop ant-repellent chemicals to deter overzealous excavation. Others evolve ant-attractant nectaries, offering sugary rewards to enlist your protection against herbivores. You observe a shrub whose extrafloral nectaries drip sweet fluid, an invitation you cannot refuse. Your daily foraging and tunneling ripple through this tapestry of life. You regulate seed dispersal, soil turnover, nutrient cycling, and predator-prey interactions. The ant supercolony is not an isolated empire, but a keystone architect of its habitat. Your toil underground echoes across the forest, sustaining biodiversity and ecosystem health. As you return to the nest entrance, the forest's chorus of crickets and birdsong fades behind the seal of clay walls. You carry with you the knowledge that every tunnel you dig and every morsel you transport helps maintain the balance of an entire ecosystem. In this web of life, you are both engineer and ecologist, a silent, ceaseless force shaping the world above as profoundly as you dominate below. Chapter 10: Legacy and Life Cycle, Colony's Future. Seasons change, and with them, the rhythms of the supercolony. As autumn approaches, foraging fronts thin out, fungal gardens slow their growth, brood production wanes. You notice fewer eggs in the nursery and more spent comb in the refuse piles. The colony enters a conservation phase. Resource intake shifts from expansion to maintenance. Yet the greatest legacy lies in the nuptial flight. In a hidden brood chamber, winged queens and drones prepare for their solitary journey. You witness a transformation. Tiny wing pads rupture from the thorax as muscles swell and hemolymph floods the veins. These alerts will embark on a brief but crucial aerial voyage, mating midair and founding new colonies. Their success depends on precise timing. Weather must be calm, temperature within a narrow band. A misstep sends them falling prey to birds or desiccation. Back in the mother nest, worker numbers decline naturally as older individuals fade. Soldiers patrol less frequently, and scouts mark fewer trails. Yet the queen's pheromone remains constant, a chemical tether that binds the colony's fragments together. Even as the population dips, the supercolony's vast network ensures stability. New chambers stand ready for expanding broods once conditions improve. Human activity encroaches during these transitional seasons. You feel vibrations from nearby construction, tunnels collapsing, nest entrances blocked. Workers rapidly deploy emergency measures, digging new shafts, diverting traffic, and relocating critical broods to deeper, undisturbed chambers. This urban ant resilience has allowed colonies to flourish even in concrete jungles, adapting ancient strategies to modern threats. Climate shifts also test the supercolony's mettle. Longer droughts force deeper quilting of brood chambers, while extreme floods prompt emergency raft formations on the surface. Genetic diversity, created by countless nuptial flights over millennia, gives some colonies the edge in novel conditions. You sense through pheromone variants that your nest body carries resilient alleles. Perhaps your descendants will thrive where others fail. As decades pass, the original queen's fertility declines. New virgin queens take her seam, temporarily increasing brood production in a final genetic flourish. When the aging queen finally dies, a crisis unfolds. If no new queen emerges in time, the supercolony collapses into chaos, tunnels fall silent, and fungus gardens wither. But usually, a virgin queen steps forward, her high-potency pheromone reasserting order and initiating a new generational cycle. Your own life cycle draws to a close. Your cuticle shows micromarks from years of service, your mandibles dulled. Yet you find comfort in the pheromone tapestry you helped weave. Map trails, fortified walls, thriving gardens, and robust brood. You played your part in an empire that outlasts most other organisms. Before your final molt, you venture to the Queen's Court one last time, carrying a droplet of brood food as tribute. She receives it and secretes a subtle pheromone pulse, a blessing that resonates through the colony's chambers. You feel a surge of warmth in your hemolymph, a chemical echo of gratitude and remembrance. In the end, your legacy is not individual, but collective. The tunnels you tunneled, the gardens you tended, the battles you fought, they all merged into an enduring structure of soil, fungus, and pheromone. Long after you vanish, new generations will walk the paths you made, guided by the chemical highways you carved. As you rest in the brood chamber, the distant click of mandibles and the soft drip of water become a lullaby. Darkness enfolds you once more, and you drift into a final reverie, a part of a supercolony that spans meters, seasons, and histories. Your individual flicker of life fades, but the empire you helped construct pulses on, an everlasting testament to cooperation, resilience, and the power of the smallest creatures on Earth.